All right, who is here with me? Good day, everyone. My name is Shakirat Oluokun, popularly called Always Shakara. You can hear me live. It's another episode on our Thursday series on Emotions Matter. So if you can hear me, can you please leave a hi and drop your location? I'm so glad to be here today again. So last week we talked about self-management, and I mentioned to us some factors that are critical to self-management. I said that one of the first things we have to do when it comes to self-management is for us to take personal responsibility and integrity. That those two words they are key to managing ourselves when it comes to our emotions as parents. Personal responsibility, I say, is the fact that you're saying that no, I've chosen to live lives on these terms, regardless of what other people think of me. I'm responsible and accountable for my actions and emotions. I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not going to blame situations for my circumstance. I'm going to take responsibility. If you can hear me, can you please leave me a hi and a comment? Thank you for joining us. And I also said last week that the second key word to self-management is integrity. And I said integrity to me means that what you are taking responsibility, you are true to yourself. You are true to in your inner self. You're not deceiving yourself. You're not doing things because other people want you to do it or because of circumstance. You are doing it because it aligns to who you are and it is your core value. So those two keywords, personal integrity and personal responsibility, they are two key words when it comes to self-management. Those are the two key words that we must imbibe when it comes to managing our emotions. Because it means you're telling yourself that every action that I take, I'm responsible for it. And whatever decision I make when it comes to a situation, I'm taking responsibility for it. I'm not blaming situation. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming I'm not going to blame my child because I yelled. I'm not going to blame my child because I beat my child. I will tell myself that I beat my child probably because I lose it or because I'm not in control of myself. So we should stop teaching children that we beat them because they hurt us. We should not telling children that we slap them or we hit them because they did something that is wrong for us. You can rather tell children that I did that because I lose my cool because I was not in balance. So these are ways we can actually start to manage ourselves. That was one of the things that we looked at last week. And I think I also mentioned some approaches, some tools that we can use to manage ourselves. I mentioned the pause button, I mentioned the grounding exercise, and I also mentioned the breathing exercise. If you have not seen the video, you can catch a replay on my YouTube channel. So, and I also talked about creating appropriate emotion pattern. I also talked about the LAMP series. I said the language we use for emotions is very important. The attention we place on emotions is very important. The M there, the meaning we give to an emotion is also important. And the P there is for the personal, the physical association of the emotions is also very important. So we can create our own emotions. We can create the physical appropriate awareness of an emotions. We can create a pattern for it. So today we are going to continue to other factors that can influence our emotions because we are talking about self-management, which is the second important skill when it comes to quality, when it comes to being an emotionally intelligent parent. So self-management is the ability to manage ourselves, and I've mentioned that last week. So today we are going to be looking at other factors that can influence our emotions. Self-image can influence our emotions. Many of us, because we have been taught that maybe because we look a certain way, we tend to act based on what people have told us about ourselves. So your self-image can influence your emotions. I want to be sure you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, kindly leave me a hi. Thank you as you do so. So if you are tired, you can it can influence the way you react to people. If you are also hungry, my son, for example, if he's hungry, he tends to be so fuzzy. So these are things that can influence our emotions that we can also deduce from other people that this person is not usually like that. My son is usually not like that. What happened to him? Why is he behaving this way? So we can give people excuses when they do things that are not that are not their usual person. That's contrary to the way they used to behave. So imbalance can also cause what emotional it can also influence our emotions. The food we eat and the drinks we take can also influence our emotions. The relationship we are into can also influence our emotions. So these are things we can also look at. So Kafaya Odunla, thank you for joining us, ma. Thank you so much for joining us. You can as well invite your friends to join us. So We can also use the when it comes to self-management, we can use what we call the cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing. You can use it, that is the way you can interpret things differently. For example, thank you very much, ma. You are welcome, ma. You can you can interpret a situation like the way you interpret a situation also influences the way you respond to the situation. For example, if your child is throwing a tantrum, instead of you saying this child is deliberately trying to frustrate me, you can say this child is not in balance. What's wrong? You can reframe that situation. You can use a different language for that, and that is going to influence the way you respond to it. If you are seeing it as my child is deliberately frustrating me, my child is deliberately trying to pull me down, you just like to embarrass me when you are in public, it can influence the way you react to the child. But once you see it as I think this child is not comfortable when we get to a new place, when we get to new places, or when we meet new people, it can influence the way you respond to the child. For example, when you take your child to school and the child start crying, for toddlers especially, instead of you getting furious, getting angry and hitting the child, it's giving you a clue that perhaps the child is not ready for that environment. Many times we fail to prepare our children, we fail to prepare them for future. A child that is crying when he or she is going to school is not emotionally ready. When a child is ready emotionally for schooling, the child will naturally not want to cry. And if the child happens to be crying even when they are ready for schooling, it means there is something wrong. Perhaps you have not prepared them enough. So my son, for example, when he started going to school, he does not used to cry because I think he had to begin school. He began crèche very early, around 6 months plus. So when he started going to school, he would usually not cry. But he get to a stage that he started crying. And I was like, no, this is unlike my child. Thank you very much for joining us, Mutumaina Umu Zayyad. Thank you for joining. You can drop me your location. I'm talking to you all the way from Ibadan. So I found out that he usually cries, and that was quite different or unusual of him. So I was curious that what is happening. And he was a late talker. He talked, I think, around 3 plus. When it was almost 3, that was when he started talking clearly that you can hear. So I started being curious. What was happening? To cut long story short, I found out that his teacher used to beat him. There was a particular day that I went to the school. When I dropped him, he was crying. Before we leave home, we normally say, "Mommy, I'm going to school." We will be the one on your neck. "Mommy, wear my uniform for I want to go to school. I want to go to school." But once we get to the entrance of the school, he starts crying. I was like, this is unusual of this child. And I think they just changed their teacher then. So I had to observe. When I got to the school, I observed what was happening. I found out that the teacher, unknown to me, I dropped him. He was crying. I dropped him. I left the school. I was out of the gate. When the teacher came out from the class, was trying to pick. I was peeping through the gate. She had to draw his hair and tapped him 3 times. A child that is just coming to school, and the child is crying. As an adult, what is expected of you is for you to be curious. Why is this child crying? This is the first day of the week, or is an early morning. So you should try and assist that child to begin with a good emotions that morning, with a good framework, a good energy. But unfortunately for the teacher, she dragged my son's hair. She does not know that I was looking at her, and she tapped the son like 3 spanking. I tried to control myself because the usual me will be enraged. So I keep my cool. I had to make her know that I saw her. So I just went inside. And she was not saying, the child is too sports. He's a sports brat, and it's almost going to 3. I think going to 3 or just 3 plus, maybe 3 and some few months. I said, okay, thank you, ma, this and that. So I don't know how to handle that situation that time. I had to report to the owner of the school, and she called. I think she cautioned her, and I saw changes. So sometimes we should try and prepare our children for things, and that begins from us managing ourselves. So as parents, when our children are doing things that we don't like, how do we manage our emotions? The way we respond to them also teaches them lesson. So we should pay attention. So cognitive reframing means that you are giving a situation different meaning, not from the way you are saying it, not just from your own angle. You are giving it different meaning. A child that is disturbing you, you are asking yourself, is the child is this child seeking attention, or perhaps this child is trying to seeking independence? Because children will misbehave for several reasons. One of the reasons your child will misbehave is that the child wants independence, and that's one of the things that children, toddlers do, and teenagers, because they want to make you know that no, I can do these things on my own. I can do this on my own. Please don't. Especially for toddlers, once they know that they have mastered a particular skill, they want to show off to you. Don't do it for me. don't do it for me. Like my son will do sometimes, he will get full, will whine in face like this. Mommy, why now? Don't do it for me now. So these are things that you can always do to self-manage. When you know why your child is behaving a certain way, you can manage yourself better. They can misbehave for attention seeking. They can misbehave because they are trying to seek independence. They can misbehave because they feel left out. Yes, these are things you can use. So another thing we're going to be looking at today is for us to look at what we call emotions rules. I call them emotions rules. That is, what is that thing that will happen to you for you to feel certain emotions? Yes, you can challenge yourself. For me to feel my anger is going to be expensive to the extent that this is what will happen for me to get angry. I can get upset, but I will not get angry. Most times we don't because we don't have enough vocabulary for emotions. We use anger when we're not even angry. You can get upset over a situation but not angry. But sometimes we just say ourselves, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. So you can set emotions rules for yourself. That's one of the self-management tools that you can use. You can say, what will happen for me to feel sad? For example, you can say, I can't feel sad unless something great happen. Perhaps a death of a person, or I don't get what I'm doing, or I'm not in the. It could be anything. You can ask yourself, what will happen for me to feel loved? For you to feel loved, it could be, I want somebody that will listen to me. I want somebody that will not judge me. I want somebody that will love me for who I am without unconditionally. These are things that you can use. Set emotions rule for yourself. What will my child to do to me for me to get to the extent of eating my child? Okay, is it that my child maybe perhaps my child stole? Is that the worst thing in the world? That's not the worst thing. But I'm just trying to tell us that we can set emotions rule for ourselves. That for me to get angry to the extent that I'll now beat my child, what must that child have done? This will assist you in situations for you to know that no, it's just acting it's trying to be disobedient. So I can still control myself. I can still calm myself and try to make him comply, make him my child to comply with my what I'm seeking of him. So these are things you can set. What will happen to you? Ask yourself, what will happen to me for me to get really furious for my child or my child? Thank you very much, ma. Sir. Thank you, sir. Well done. Okay, I have a question. How can I deal with a student that always reports all happenings to her parents at home, and the parents react negatively when even without finding out how true is what they have heard from the children? Okay, I'll answer that. Please kindly remind me. I'll answer that when I'm through with this session. So ask yourself that question. What will happen for you to get furious to beat a child? What is the peak of that thing that will happen to you for you to slap or beat your child? Ask yourself and find answer to that question. And that thing that we have to ask ourselves is that we can use to manage ourselves is that we can, when we are engulfed in emotions or when we are overwhelmed by emotions, we can take a time out ourselves, or you can call it calming technique. Instead of you asking your child that is getting you perhaps furious, your child is just being child. Maybe perhaps that act that your child is doing is getting you angry, it's about to make you lose control of yourself. You can have a time out yourself. Just look for a place. It could be anything. As a Muslim, most times I will chant their scar. You can chant their scar. If you're a Christian, you can look for something you can do. Just make your child know that you are upset with what is happening and move aside from the child. Sit down and start doing something. You can start saying, for me as a Muslim, I will say, I want to be live in a shaitan regime. I want to be live in a shaitan regime. I want to be live in a shaitan regime. If you're a Christian, you can look for something. It could be your hymns, it could be praises that you say. What you are doing is that you are teaching your child that you are getting to that point that you might lose your cool, and your child too will start practicing it. Once you can practice this consistently, even when your child is getting angry, thank you for joining us, Absalam Farida. Your child will start to practice it too. You find your child sitting in a place and doing the same thing when they're about to lose their cool. So that's a time out for yourself. The essence of all these things is for us to practice them so that our children can see what we are doing and do it together. It's not about us getting angry and beating our children. Because believe me, once you continue to beat your child because you are angry about a particular situation, your child will do what you want that moment. But you're not empowering the child. Once you are not there, your child will repeat the same behavior. So instead of you raising children who are somewhat hypocritical, you're trying to empower them to know that no, I want you to know that this behavior is bad. It is not acceptable. Don't do this, please. by teaching the child and modeling to the child. So these are things you can do, and it begins from us parents empowering ourselves with those skills first. When your child is doing something that you don't like, don't get angry to the extent of eating that child. You eat a child or you beat a child because you are not in control of yourself, not really because of what the child have done to you. It's because of your interpretation of the situation. And okay, let me give you an example. A child steals something. It happened to me myself. My poster son, he was around 5 years old. He stole, I think he took something in the fridge without permission. And we are the only one at home, just me, he, and his younger brother. And he was denying to me that he did not take it, nobody took it. And his younger brother is just 2 years old. They cannot even have access to, cannot even touch where I kept that thing in the fridge. So it was obvious that it was one that took it, and he was still adamant that I did not take it. So the furious me, I was really furious. I beat this child to the extent that I used skin. I gave him a mark very close to his eyes, even not for God. Perhaps the stick would have entered his eyes. That was what anger can cause. So I was really angry that why would you be lying to me? But believe me, it did not empower the child. What happened when I was beating the child? Once the child stood, I was interpreting it. Hey, this child is stealing now. People will start saying, when he grows old, somebody that lies will start stealing. Like the Yoruba will say, Omotoba paro umajali. And once he starts stealing, one day perhaps they will catch him outside. He will disgrace our family. And once what people will say, the parent that raised this child is getting furious. The parent that raised this child has done a bad job. So it's not. I'm not really thinking about how to help the child. I'm thinking of how to save myself from public image. So most times when our children do things that we don't like, we are not even thinking of helping the child. We are thinking about ourselves. That's the truth. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to sign out now for important assignments. My advice is that you should please create a WhatsApp group for the control that I do, and you can always send us all the wonderful lectures. We all comment. I'm not hope to accept invite a special speaker in schools. Okay. Of course, I do accept invite in schools. I do accept invite in schools. I talk in schools. It's one of the things I'm working on to get more publicity. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. I really appreciate your presence. Let me quickly answer your question since you said you are leaving and you might not have the chance to answer this to respond to this again. So for the child that is usually that telling their parent at home that you have done something and the parent is not bothering to ask, that's a bad way to teach a child. Many times children will tell us things, but we have to still verify. Just like this morning, my foster son still told me some things in school that happened in school about amidst his peers. He was telling me that they were using saucy language. And I was telling him I had to start to teach him that you don't fit in. You must be a distinct individual. You're a standard bearer. You don't fit in because people are saying things. And he was telling me that he did not say things. Even though he's telling me, I still have to verify. I had to call a teacher in school today, though I didn't later tell the teacher because I forgot. I called for a particular for another thing, but I forgot. We still have to verify. So the parents that is not confirming, you can look for a way to educate the parents. That's it. Because you are trying to help the child. It's not everything that happened in school that your child will tell you. And if your child even happens to tell you things that happened in school, you still have to verify. And you have to teach the child to the value of verifying information. It's not about because you are my child, I should now believe whatever you tell me, Ukuna and saying. Even as parents, we should tell our children to still try to verify when we tell them things. This is just about value setting. It's not because they do not believe in you. It's not because you don't believe in your child. It's because you're trying to what? To hear from two sides before making judgments. So look for a way to call the parents in a cool atmosphere. It could even not be you that will call the parents. You can look for someone that is close to the parents, maybe perhaps another parent that is close to the parents or the admin of the school. You have to talk to the teachers, to the parents. It's very important. It's not because of finding fault in the school. It's because you want to teach the child and you want that parent to do that to the child. So I hope this helps you. I already have a WhatsApp platform that I use for parents. So you can as well send me a link. You can look at my wall. You can find my number there, my contact there. You can reach out to me, sir. Thank you. I hope this answers your question. So moving back to our points, I said one of the things we can do to manage our emotions is that we should take a time out for ourselves when we find ourselves overwhelmed by particular emotions. So self-management is something that is critical to becoming emotionally intelligent as parents. We cannot expect our children to manage themselves when we cannot do it ourselves. And it begins from what we model to them. It's not about just telling them, look at you, you're not even patient, you cannot even control yourself. Is it because your younger brother is saying that to you, that's why you're getting angry? but you do the same to your child when they do things that annoys you. So they see us when we do things and we ask them to do something that is contrary. It's not possible. We can't give what we don't have until we start to model it ourselves before our children can see it and start to practice it themselves. So we can't place a standard on our children that we ourselves have not attained. It's not possible to do that. We must attain those standards that we are setting for our children. And until we do that, we might be getting it wrong. So you can take a time out. Another thing you can do is that you can take, thank you very much, sir. You can take another, you can observe from the outside. After a particular incident, look back at that incident and observe like a neutral person. Look back into that situation and observe like a neutral person. Assume yourself, remove yourself from that situation and assume another person in that situation and try to give a judgment to what you have done without being judgmental. Yes, try to give a judgment without being judgmental. Without, sometimes we like to praise ourselves beyond who we are, and other times we tend to underlook ourselves beyond what we are capable of doing. So the point here is that you should try to observe the situation like an observer, like you are not the one that performed that act, and give a judgment on that situation. So another thing you can use to manage yourself is for you to try to preempt the signs that of the things that gets you out of control. I've said that before too. That is what will happen for you to get out of control and beat your child. What will happen for you to get really furious and get angry or furious at your child to the extent that you now beat or eat your child. So it's important that you can ask those questions. So today, the next thing for us now is for us to give us activities to improve our self-management skills. One of the things that we can do is that for us to get curious about ourselves. This is very important. I said this in section during self-awareness class that it's just the foundation. Try to seek to understand yourself better. Try to know yourself. Who are you in your true self? Different from what they have instilled in you. Aside from the things that your situation, your environment, your parents, or your caregivers must have instilled in you, are you trying to know yourself? So these are things you can do to become better at managing yourself. He who knows himself knows his Lord. The extent to which you know yourself is the extent to which you can assist yourself. And you cannot parent a child that you don't understand. So if you don't understand yourself, how is it possible for you to understand other people? And you don't have the right to judge somebody you don't understand. That's the truth. So you can research and find ways to. Another thing you can do is for you to research and find ways to calm yourself. Ask yourself, doing when you are overwhelmed by emotions, what can I do? What are the things that can calm me? Calm me. Once you do this, observe yourself and observe your child too, and try to do the same for your child. What are the things that can calm you? Me, sometimes when I'm overwhelmed by emotions, sometimes I might just need to see a movie. Sometimes I just need to sleep. Sometimes I just need to read a book and I'm cool. So you have to understand yourself. Ask yourself what are the things you can do when you're overwhelmed by emotions for you to get down and get better at yourself. So you can try these suggestions and I hope you find it helpful and I hope it assists you to become better with managing your emotions. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining me always, and I really do appreciate that. Appreciate it. I do not take it for granted. Till next time again, next week, same time, by God's grace. So if you are yet to purchase Discipline, the book, Simple Guide to Discipline Without Physical Attack, I think is a very great, it will be a nice book for you to get. And unfortunately, the promo period have ended. You just have to get it for 35. You can contact me for your copy and also watch out for Connect to Influence, a better way to strive with your child despite everyday challenges. It's going to be a great book for you. Watch out, and I do hope